What's up, guys? Alright, so uh, when dealing with this AI, I asked a question. We're going to talk about the little horn. So I ask it, according to the book of Daniel in the Bible, who is the little horn? And he says, the little horn is a symbolic representation of a powerful kingdom. It's often interpreted as representing a figure of evil, tyranny, and destruction who rises to power and opposes God's people. The exact identity of the little horn remains a matter of interpretation and debate among scholars and religious groups. Okay. It's not really what I'm after, because I want his answer to be according to the Bible, not according to popular belief. Okay? And so I keep asking him questions, and I ask him to list the attributes and characteristics of the man of sin, man of lawlessness, son of perdition, Antichrist, the little horn figure as described in the Bible. And he gives me all these things, but it's not exact quotations. And he doesn't like my he didn't like my question when I got right here. What is the image of the beast? Does it not cause everyone who doesn't worship the beast to be killed? And he's like, yes, in the book of Revelation, the image of the beast is depicted as a tool used by the false prophet to control and deceive people. The image of the beast is described as having the ability to speak and as causing anyone who does not worship the beast to be killed. The image is said to be, and this is where he broke down. And so, after I was able to get him back up and going, I told him to continue. So he does. And so he says, this image is said to be an image of the Antichrist, who is often referred to as the beast in Revelation, and is portrayed as a powerful and deceitful figure who works against God and God's people. The image of the beast is depicted, or is described as being set up in a prominent place, possibly a temple or a place of worship, and as requiring everyone to worship it in order to be able to participate in commerce or other aspects of society. Interesting, right? So since he wasn't giving me the type of answer I was looking for, I had to redefine his parameters in a new conversation. And I did that. And let's see. Where'd it go? Oh, it didn't label. It did not label my chat. It just says new chat. But I believe this is the one. Yes. So I rephrased my answer and gave him some more specific parameters. I said, according to the book of Daniel in the Bible, lists the attributes and characteristics of the one called the little horn, and only use King James exact quotations and reference each quotation when giving your answer. Okay? So he says, the little horn is described in the book of Daniel in the King James Version of the Bible. Here are some of the attributes and characteristics of the little horn, according to Daniel 7 and 8, quoted from the King James Version. And he gives them to me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different verses. There's more than that. But he gives me 5 different verses, all right? Because we're building up to something here. I said, great. Now, do the same thing for one who is called the man of sin, or the man of lawlessness, or the son of perdition, or the Antichrist. And it says the man of sin, man of lawlessness, son of perdition, and Antichrist are all references to the same figure in the New Testament described in the King James Version of the Bible. Here are some of the attributes and characteristics of this figure, according to 2 Thessalonians 2. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Well, that doesn't actually list his attributes or characteristics. Who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God. Now that is, and that is, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Number 3, and now you know what withholdeth him, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. These passages describe the man of sin as someone who's deceptive and exalts himself above God, while also sitting in the religious temple as if he were God. This figure is also described as the son of perdition and the one who opposes God. So I say, great, now do the same for the one who's referred to as the beast in the book of Revelation. And he tells me, the beast, I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And as I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And the beast that I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. These passages describe the beast as a figure with great power and blasphemy, worshipped by many, and having a mouth that speaks great things and blasphemies. The beast is also described as having 7 heads and 10 horns, and being like a leopard, bear, and lion. Okay. So, tell me about the Antichrist. The Antichrist is a figure referred to in the New Testament, specifically in the letters of John in the King James Version of the Bible. Here are some of the attributes and characteristics of the Antichrist according to 1 John 2:18, 22, and 4:3. Little children, it is the last time, and as you have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. Who is a liar but he that denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denies the Father and the Son. And every spirit that confesses not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God, and this is that spirit of Antichrist, whereof you have heard that it should come, and even now already is it in the world. These passages describe the Antichrist as someone who denies Jesus as the Christ and denies the Father and the Son. The Antichrist is also described as being a liar and as not confessing that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. The Antichrist is associated with the last time and is considered to be against Christ. So I ask, who's the false prophet? And he says that false prophet's a figure described in the book of Revelation, in the King James Version of the Bible. The false prophet is described as working in concert with the beast and as having the ability to perform miracles. Here are some of the attributes and characteristics of the false prophet according to Revelation 16:13 and 19:20. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire with burning with brimstone. And so I'm trying to list all the attributes, since he only said some, and he still gives me just those 2 verses. So I ask, what is the image of the beast? And he says it's a figure described in the book of Revelation, in the King James Version of the Bible. The image of the beast is described as being made by the false prophet and as having the ability to speak. Here is a description of the image of the beast according to Revelation 13:14 through 15. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This passage describes the image of the beast as being made by the false prophet and as having the ability to speak. The false prophet uses the image to deceive people into worshiping the beast, and those who do not worship the image are threatened with death. The image of the beast is also described as having been given life by the false prophet. So I ask, who is the whore of Babylon, or the harlot of Babylon, or the great harlot, or the whore that rides the beast? And he says, the whore of Babylon, harlot of Babylon, great harlot, and whore that rides the beast are all figures described in the book of Revelation, in the King James Version of the Bible. The figure is described as a woman who sits on many waters and as having committed fornication with the kings of the earth. Here is a description of the figure according to Revelation 17:1 through 6. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. This passage describes the figure as a woman who has committed fornication with the kings of the earth and has made the inhabitants of the earth drunk with the wine of her fornication. The woman is described as sitting on a scarlet-colored beast and is decked in purple, scarlet, gold, and precious stones. She is also described as having a cup in her hand that is full of abominations and filthiness. The figure is also described as having the name Babylon the Great written on her forehead. And I said, what's the interpretation of these things, along with the interpretations of the great city? And he says the interpretations of the figures described in the book of Revelation, including the whore of Babylon, harlot of Babylon, great harlot, whore that rides the beast, and the great city, is a matter of religious and historical interpretation. I don't think so, buddy. But he says, there are many different interpretations of these figures, some of which are more symbolic, and some of which are more literal. In a symbolic interpretation, the whore of Babylon is often seen as representing false religion, idolatry, or spiritual adultery. The great city is often seen as representing either a specific city, such as Rome or Babylon, or a larger symbolic representation of a center of power, wealth, or oppression. In a more literal interpretation, the Whore of Babylon and the great city are often seen as representing the city of Rome and the Roman Empire, and the figure of the whore is seen as representing the Roman Catholic Church. Ultimately, the interpretation of these figures is a matter of individual belief, and different people in religious traditions may have different interpretations. So what is the biblical interpretation of these things, taken from within the book of Revelations? And he don't really tell me. Okay? He don't really tell me. He wasn't giving me the answer I'm looking for. Because the Word tells you what the interpretation is. Okay? But he ain't wanting to give it up. But that's okay. Because that's not really too important right now. So I ask, okay, didn't Jesus tell the Pharisees that they rejected him because he came in his Father's name, and that one day they would receive someone who came in his own name? Where did he say this? Yes, Jesus did tell the Pharisees that they rejected him because he came in his Father's name, and that one day they would receive someone who came in his own name. This can be found in the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verses 43 and 44 in the King James Version of the Bible. It says, I am come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe how can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that cometh from God only? So I said, is it safe to say that he was referring to the man of sin? And he says, it's not explicitly stated in the Bible that Jesus was referring to the man of sin when he spoke of someone who would come in his own name. But some interpret it as a reference to the Antichrist figure mentioned in the New Testament. The identity of the Antichrist and the man of sin is a topic of much debate and speculation among scholars and theologians, and different interpretations of biblical passages can lead to different conclusions about their identity and role in end-time events. It's important to note that the Bible doesn't provide a clear and definite answer to this question, and that different individuals and communities may have their own beliefs and interpretations about these matters. Cool. I'm only interested in how that the Bible interprets itself. I only care about the biblical interpretation within the context of what we're referring to. So I say, and is it not stated in the Bible that in times past God spoke through his servants the prophets, but in these last days hath he spoken through his Son? So doesn't that mean that the end times or the last days started when Jesus was on the earth? Yes, the Bible does state that in times past God spoke through his servants the prophets, but in these last days he has spoken through his Son. This is mentioned in Hebrews 1:1-2. God, who at sundry times and in divers manners spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. This passage can be interpreted as indicating that the last days began when Jesus was on the earth. But it is important to note that the exact timing of the end times and the meaning of the last days are the subject of much debate and interpretation among scholars and theologians. I don't care about the interpretation of scholars and theologians. I care about the interpretation of the Word, because only the Word of God can interpret the Word of God. Only God can interpret what he says. So his words have to be taken into consideration for the interpretation to be valid. Okay? Some believe that the last days refer to the time period from Jesus' first coming to his second coming, while others believe that They refer to a specific future time period. Ultimately, the interpretation of these matters is dependent on one's own beliefs and understanding of the Bible. Well, that's true, in a sense. So, since the last days started when Jesus was on the earth, and it's been almost 2,000 years since that time, doesn't that mean we are that much closer to his return now than ever before? The exact timing of Jesus' return is not specified in the Bible. And it is written in the New Testament that of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. That's Matthew 24:36. Therefore, it's not possible to determine with certainty how close we are to Jesus' return or when it will occur. While it's true that it's been almost 2,000 years since the time of Jesus' first coming, the idea of the last days being a specific future time period is also a widely held belief among many Christians. In this view, the fact that it's been 2,000 years since Jesus' first coming is not a reliable indicator of how close we are to his return. Ultimately, the timing of Jesus' return is in God's hands and not something that can be determined by human calculation. Christians are encouraged to live each day as though Jesus could return at any moment, and to be prepared for his coming by living a life that is pleasing to God. Cool, so according to Matthew chapter 25, what are all of the events in sequential order leading up to the return of Christ, the return of Jesus Christ? And he says, Matthew 25:31 through 46 describes the events that will take place at the time of Jesus' return. No, I said leading up to. Jesus spoke of judgment of nations in which the sheep representing the righteous will be separated from the goats representing the unrighteous. The sequence of events described in this passage is as follows. Jesus returns in glory, accompanied by the angels. No, I said before, leading up to his return. The nations are gathered before him. Yeah, the sheep and goats, judgment, righteous, blessed. Yeah, yes. So I'll tell him that's not really the answer I wanted. When the disciples asked Jesus what would be the sign of his return and the end of the age, what was his answer? And what did he encourage what did he encourage his people to do? Did he not command them to watch, therefore? He says yes. In Matthew 24:3, the disciples asked Jesus, what shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? Or it's actually end of the age. In response, Jesus provided a series of signs and events that would indicate the end of the age, including false Christs and false prophets arising, saying, take heed that no man deceives you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So false Christs and false prophets. Number 2, wars and rumors of wars. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. 3, famines and pestilences and earthquakes, yes, in diverse places. 4, persecution of Christians, which is actually not quite true, but it says that, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And 5 is that the gospel preached to all the nations. The gospel will be preached to all the nations. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. Jesus also encouraged his followers to watch and be ready, saying, therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. In summary, Jesus' answer to his disciples were that there would be a series of events and signs indicating the end of the age. And he encouraged his followers to watch and be ready for his return. And I said, you stopped at verse 14. There's more to the answer. Please pick up where you left off in verse 14 and continue. And he says, I apologize. Let me continue. Yes, the gospel will be preached in all nations. Then the abomination of desolation. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Then there will be great tribulation. Then there will be the sign of the Son of Man, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. The gathering together of the elect, and he shall send his angels with the sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. The separation of the sheep and goats, and then the final judgment. So in conclusion, Jesus provided a comprehensive answer to his disciples, outlining the events and signs leading up to his return and the events that would occur after his return. He encouraged his followers to watch and be ready, and emphasized the importance of being righteous and obedient to God's will. Interesting, right? And I says, it seems you skipped something. That there would be an apostasy or a falling away, and that the man of sin would be revealed. Where does this fit into the sequence of events? And is there anything else that you left out? You know? And he says, I apologize for leaving that out. Let me add it to the sequence of events. The falling away or apostasy, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Okay? This event refers to a widespread departure from the faith and a rejection of the truth, which would pave the way for the rise of the man of sin. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, and I hope this answers your question. Yes, and where does it say that many shall turn their ears from the truth unto myths and fables? And what's the context surrounding this? And does this not fit in with 2 Thessalonians 2:3? You're referring to 2 Timothy 4:3-4, which states, For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. This passage is set in the context of false teachers and false doctrine, which would deceive many and cause them to depart from the truth. This event fits in with the apostasy described in 2 Thessalonians 2:3, as it is a sign of the widespread rejection of the truth that would precede the rise of the man of sin. In summary, the falling away or apostasy and the turning of many to myths and fables are two related events that would occur before the end times and return of Jesus Christ. And in Matthew 25, did Jesus not say that when you therefore see all these things happening, to know that he is right at the door? Yes, that's correct. In Matthew 24:33-34, Jesus says, So likewise ye, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Truly I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all these things be fulfilled. This passage refers to the signs and events that would precede the end times, and Jesus instructs his followers to recognize them as a sign that his return is imminent. In other words, when they see these things happening, they should know that he is right at the door and that the end is near. So, even though no man knows the day or the hour, it is possible to recognize the season by recognizing all the signs taking place that Jesus mentioned. Yes, that's correct. While no one can know the exact day or hour of Jesus' return, Jesus did indicate that there would be certain signs and events that would signal that the end times were near. By observing these signs, it is possible to recognize the season of his return, even if the exact day and hour are unknown. This is in line with Jesus' instructions to his followers to watch and be ready, because they do not know when he will come. And does it not say that the day of the Lord will catch everyone off guard, and that day would be like a snare? Yes, that's correct. In 1 Thessalonians 5, 2-3, it says, "For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say, Peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." This passage indicates that the day of the Lord will come unexpectedly, like a thief in the night, and will catch people off guard. It also suggests that people may feel a false sense of security and peace, thinking that everything is normal and safe, just before the day of the Lord arrives. This highlights the importance of being ready and watching, because no one knows when the day of the Lord will come. And where else does it say this? The idea that the day of the Lord will come unexpectedly like a thief in the night is also mentioned in other passages in the New Testament. For example, in Matthew 24, 43-44, Jesus says, "But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have allowed his house to be broken up, or suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore, be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh." Similarly, in Revelation 3:3, it says, "Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast, and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee." These verses emphasize the importance of being ready and watching, as the day of the Lord will come unexpectedly, like a thief in the night, and people need to be prepared for that day. And does it say that that day would not overtake you, for you are not in darkness? Yes. That idea is expressed in 1 Thessalonians 5:4, which says, "But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief." This verse is often interpreted to mean that believers who are living in the light of Christ will not be caught off guard by the day of the Lord, because they are aware of the signs and ready for his return. Good night. Who are the children of disobedience? The children of disobedience are a group of people who are described in the New Testament as being opposed to God and his will. The term is used several times in the letter of Paul, such as in Ephesians 2:2, where it says, "Wherein in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience." In this context, the children of disobedience are seen as those who are controlled by sin and rebel against God's commandments. And what about the book of Jude? In the book of Jude, the term children of disobedience is also used. In Jude 1:4, Jude writes, "For there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness, and denying the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ." Here, Jude is warning his readers about false teachers who have infiltrated the Christian community and are spreading false doctrine. He describes these false teachers as children of disobedience because they are disobedient to God's truth and live in a state of rebellion against him. And since this was happening in the first century church, would it not make sense that it was even more that it was more that much more prevalent today in the 21st century church? It says the Bible doesn't make a direct comparison between the situation in the first century church described in the book of Jude and the 21st century church. Of course not, because it was written back in the first century. However, the general message of Jude regarding false teachers and the need for Christians to contend for the faith is still relevant today. It is up to each individual to determine the extent to which this message applies to the current state of the church. That's right. How does it apply to the current state of the church? You ever asked yourself that question? So I ask him to summarize our conversation, and he does. And I ask, so according to Jesus' words, he returns after the falling away, after the man of sin is revealed, after the abomination of desolation. Is this not correct? In Matthew 24, Jesus speaks about the end of the age and his return, mentioning several events that would happen before his return, including a falling away, the revealing of the man of sin, and the abomination of desolation. And then he throws in his disclaimer answer. However, it's important to keep in mind that the exact timing and sequence of these events is not specified in the Bible. Of course they are. And their interpretations may vary among different Christian traditions. Nevertheless, Jesus commands his followers to be watchful and ready for his return, as it will come like a thief in the night. And according to 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, what happens when the Lord returns? According to the 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, when the Lord returns, there will be a transformation of believers from mortal to immortality. And Jesus will be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in blazing fire to execute judgment on those who do not know God and on those who do not obey the gospel of Jesus. The Lord's return is described as bringing both salvation for his people and destruction for his enemies. Pretty amazing, isn't it? I think so. So this is going to provide me with a good tool for building teachings. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's been a long video, but I hope you got something out of this. Peace.